Hey, fourth graders, good morning. Happy Monday. We are ready to embark on the next unit in math, Unit 4. You guys are moving along so nicely. I'm so proud of you. Um, and I'm just really looking forward to this next unit. We are going to be doing properties and algebraic notation. You're going to feel like big kids with all this algebra that we're about to start. So today I'm going to start to share. Today is going to be a vocabulary, kind of a math vocabulary review as I get you ready for today's live math. So I'm going to go over some things. Let me trust this. All right, so today we're going to go over some vocabulary that should sound familiar. You might not remember it, and that's okay. That's why we're going over it. And it's going to help us as we get ready to solve our new types of algebraic equations. All right, so you do not have to write this. You just need to listen, let it sink in. If you want to write it down in your spiral notebook, you do have one that we've used for math. And here we go. It is December 7th, Monday. This is 4-1, our vocabulary and kind of our pre to the lesson. Okay, so a couple things I want you to know as we get started is we're going to be using and looking at variables. So variables, as a reminder, are letters to represent numbers. Variables can be any letter you like. Maybe you love your name, and so you want to start with the first letter of your name. Maybe you're just thinking about an N. Maybe you're thinking about a T. Maybe you're thinking about an R. A variable can be anything, but what I want you to remember is it's an unknown in math. Okay? Sometimes we might be seeing something that looks like N equals 4. They will tell us what the variable equals, and then we'll get to plug it into our equation. Okay, so I want you to just keep that in mind. We're going to be seeing a lot of variables coming up in Unit 4. Okay, all right, moving on down. Properties in algebraic notation, that's kind of the title for today. And I want us to look at expressions versus equations. I'm going to add an S. And for that example, I'm going to get our math workbook. And I'm going to share this for a minute because I thought it was a good representation. And it had the definitions in here already, okay? An expression is one or more numbers, variables, or numbers and variables with one or more operation. That's a lot of words in there. Here are some examples. You will notice when we compare the two, an expression does not have an equal sign. It does use operations. Here you can see a minus and a plus, but it is not complete like an equation is. It's like a part of an equation. So an expression could just be a number all alone. An expression might be a number with a variable, or it can be a partial but not completed expression. There is no answer yet. Versus the equation, which is a statement that two expressions are equal and it does have an equal sign. I kind of always remember equation kind of feels like equal. That reminds me an equation always completely has the equal sign, which shows the answer. Okay? All right. Let's move on to my next little part. So we've got expressions versus equations. We know a little bit about that. We're also going to be talking about operations. And we did this last week. We reviewed, or the week before, my gosh, time flies. In math, when we talk about operations, there are 4 of them. Operations means Are you going to multiply, divide, add, or subtract? So I want you to keep those 4 operations in mind as we get going in this next unit. We're going to be using them a lot, all of them, okay? All right. So with those operations, we have an order. This is very important as we get into our algebraic expressions, our notations. The order has 3 steps, and I hope this sounds familiar. When we see a big equation, we're going to remember that step 1 tells me parentheses must go first. No matter if it's at the beginning, middle, or end, I have to do my parentheses first, okay? Once I've done parentheses, next comes any multiplication or division. And finally, the 3rd step in the order would be addition or subtraction if there is any. Okay, so we're really going to be using this order of operations as we start solving some larger algebraic equations. Okay, so remember those operations and their order. That's important. Now we've got some properties. These properties should sound familiar. The first one that I want to talk to you about is the identity property. Identity, when someone says your identity, that's you. That's one person, right? So keep in mind that the identity property has a value. It's just 1. Okay? And something about the identity property. Say, for example, I have an equation 1 times n using a variable, right? In math, we don't need 1 because it just represents itself. We don't need to put a 1. So if you see the variable all by itself like that as n, you have to remember, because of its identity, n is the same as 1. And you'll get more practice with that. So just link and remember, identity has to do with 1. Okay? All right, moving on to the next property review, the commutative, AKA flip-flop. I always do that, flip-flop. That just means, for example, if you have 49 plus 23, you can flip-flop it, flip it. It is equal to 23 plus 49. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you go forwards or backwards. You will get the same thing. Okay, and you can use that with multiplication also. Addition and multiplication, not subtraction and not division. Okay, so remember commutative, flip-flop. We have 2 more properties. The associative property. So also in the associative property, we can use it for multiplication and addition only. Okay, and this is what it means. Associative property helps us with our order of operations. And it means when you're adding or multiplying, it actually doesn't matter where the parentheses are, you're going to get the same answer. Okay? So it has to do with the order, because as soon as I see parentheses, I'm going to do them. So in this top equation, I go to 6 plus 3, that's 9. And then I would add the 5. 5 plus 9 is 14. So let's see. If the parentheses got switched because of the associative property, now my order, I do 5 plus 6 first. That makes 11. I finish this side. 11 plus 3 also equals 14. So you can see that with addition, even though I'm doing my order, I'm still going to get the same answer. Okay, only multiplication and addition that works. Can't do that for subtraction or division. So you've got to really follow the order. Okay, and finally, one more term I just want you to hear and know is the distributive property. It just tells us that we can add like terms together. For example, if I have 1 well, actually, I don't want to do that. Let's do 7. 7n plus 3n. Because they're both like, they're both using the variable n, that means they are common terms and I can add them together. Distribute means put them together. So I would add 7 plus 3. So I'll do my numbers first. And I can't forget my variable. They both have an n. So distributive tells me that I can put them together because they are like terms. They are both n's. Okay? So there are your 4 properties I want you to keep in mind. And I think you're really going to enjoy moving forward with properties and algebraic notations. We'll practice a lot together today. I'll see you in just a bit, 4th graders.